Good morning. It's Friday, November 6th. And as this day begins, Supreme Court nominee Ginsburg comes under fire for smoking pot, a new offer for Central American peace, and a new leader for Japan. In sports, the NBA season gets underway tonight, and Navy's David Robinson signs a contract just before it does. Jimmy Cefalo has details. Joe Whitty's forecast shows wintry weather has hit a good part of the country, and Alan Abelson looks at something that's made a lot of people happy lately, falling interest rates. I'm Deborah Norville, and this is NBC News at Sunrise. President Reagan says he's sticking by his nominee despite the latest revelation about Judge Douglas Ginsburg. On Thursday, Ginsburg, whose confirmation hearings will begin December 7th, admitted he has smoked marijuana on occasion. NBC's Carl Stern reports.
After several news agencies heard that Ginsburg, who was making courtesy calls on Capitol Hill, had used illegal drugs, Ginsburg issued a written statement. He said, "To the best of my recollection, once as a college student in the 1960s and then on a few occasions in the 70s, I used marijuana." Ginsburg said it was a mistake. "I regret it. I have not used it since." Attorney General Meese said the action taken in his younger days does not affect his qualifications to sit on the Supreme Court. President Reagan said he would stand by his nomination of Ginsburg. But conservative Senator Jesse Helms said dejectedly, "There are lots of us who wish Ginsburg hadn't done it." And Ginsburg supporter Charles Grassley said, "You would like to think people who are appointed to the Supreme Court respect the law." The FBI supposedly never alerted the White House to Ginsburg's drug use, according to White House officials. There were at least some discussions yesterday of withdrawing Ginsburg's name, which has never been officially sent to the Senate. The latest revelation was not considered fatal, but it surely won't help the nomination. Carl Stern, NBC News, Washington.
A major stumbling block to the Central American peace plan may have been removed with Nicaraguan President Daniel Ortega's latest offer. Ortega says he's willing to hold indirect ceasefire talks with the Contra rebels. Also Thursday, he pardoned 1,000 political prisoners. Ortega stressed that his offer to talk ceasefire does not mean he'll hold political discussions. The lull in the tanker war is over. In the Persian Gulf this morning, Iranian gunboats fired rockets at a U.S.-owned tanker. The ship, the Grand Wisdom, was set on fire, but sources say the flames were quickly put out. There are no reports of any injuries. The Grand Wisdom is in Dubai this morning now for repairs. This is Noboru Takashita, and he has his hands full this morning. Takashita has just taken over as Prime Minister of Japan at a time when trade relations with the United States are difficult and a falling dollar is putting the squeeze on Japan's economy. More now from NBC's Steve Mallory in Tokyo.
No one was surprised by the results of the voting by members of Japan's parliament, who chose a new prime minister today. Noboru Takashita, the leader of the country's most powerful political party, was elected easily. It was the former prime minister, Yasuhiro Nakasone, that chose the 63-year-old Takashita to succeed him. Takashita is considered a skilled politician in regard to domestic issues, but he has had little experience in foreign affairs. Political analysts say there are not going to be many changes in government policies. For the present, the new prime minister is expected to continue the programs of his predecessor. The main issues confronting Mr. Takashita are economic. He must consider tax reform, deal with the complaints from trading partners regarding Japan's trade surplus, and the strength of the yen. Despite some disputes related to trade, good relations with the United States are expected to continue. Mr. Takashita is scheduled to visit Washington in January. Steve Mallory, NBC News, Tokyo.
There is mixed reaction in Europe this morning to the resignation of Defense Secretary Caspar Weinberger. Weinberger officially said goodbye to the Reagan administration Thursday during ceremonies at the White House Rose Garden. And while Europeans are undecided whether the former defense secretary was a hawk or a firm advisor, the Soviets have made no secret of their pleasure at his departure. They say Weinberger tried to sour the mood at the first superpower summit and has been trying to do the same in advance of the December Reagan-Gorbachev meeting. Every year about this time, folks up north reach for a warm coat. But down in southern Florida, they roll up their sleeves and grab a claw and some drawn butter. NBC's Jim Kazurski in Miami reports on stone crab season.
In the north, leaves lose their grip and flutter to the ground. A peaceful ceremony for a new season. At the same time in the South, in Florida, there is a ritual of a different kind. Here, sailors reach for their traps and gather the claws. It's stone crab season. There's a stampede to feast on the fall harvest. The pace is, well,
hectic.
and this is just the lunch crowd at Joe's on Miami Beach.
Do you know what it's like to get in here at night?
They'll crack a couple of 1,000 pounds here in a day, and sometimes even an army of waiters can't serve them fast enough.
And everything else just flakes off.
You eat them not while they're hot, but cold. And in case you're wondering,
It's better than lobster.
the stone crab season is October to May, helped out this year by Floyd.
Hurricane Floyd stirred up the Gulf waters enough, not too much, but just enough.
Here in Florida, they note the season by what's on the menu. Jim Kazurski, NBC News, Miami.
And while they may note the season that way down in Florida, here on News at Sunrise, we note the season in which games are played. Starting tonight, the hardwood floor and the ice rink are the centers of attention. We'll get Jimmy's Cephalo Sports Report right after this. Just got finished with baseball, and basketball season's here.
Yeah, their goal is to outlast the hockey season, Deborah. This thing goes on forever. There's no different than any other NBA year. The Los Angeles Lakers and Boston Celtics are favored to win their respective conference titles and meet once again for the championship. They've traded the NBA title back and forth in each of the past 4 years. It was the Lakers' turn last season. They'll attempt to become the first repeat NBA champions in 19 years. Led by Magic Johnson, last season's most valuable player, and by 40-year-old Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the Lakers have the best chance to repeat of any team this decade. The Lakers are without peer in the Pacific Division. The Seattle Supersonics, who lost to the Lakers in the conference finals a year ago, you may remember, are a distant second. In the Midwest, the Dallas Mavericks are the odds-on favorite. They'll have a new coach to deal with. Gone is Dick Motta. He's been replaced by John McLeod. The Houston Rockets will have something to say about the winner in the Midwest. Newly acquired World B. Free should help their perimeter shooting, a weakness of the Rockets in the past. In the East, the Boston Celtics figure it's their turn. They won the title in '84 and '86 and will challenge the Lakers once again, but they'll need a healthy Kevin McHale to wrestle the title away. He's expected to miss the first month of the season recovering from foot surgery. McHale averaged 26 points per game last year. His absence will place more of a scoring burden on Larry Bird. The Celtics will be challenged in the Atlantic Division by Washington and Philadelphia. The Bullets added to their front line strength by acquiring Bernard King during the offseason. The Celtics' Eastern supremacy could be challenged by the Atlanta Hawks, who will try to repeat as champions in the Central Division. Led by All-Star Dominique Wilkins, the Hawks won 57 games a year ago. 11 games are on tap tonight as the NBA season gets underway. Well, later today, David Robinson will become the highest-paid military man in the country. The former Navy center is scheduled to sign with the San Antonio Spurs later today. The New York Times is reporting that the contract is worth $26 million over 8 years. According to the Times, Robinson will collect a $1 million signing bonus immediately, even though he has a 2-year military commitment to fulfill before reporting to the Spurs. Turning to hockey, the Pittsburgh Penguins finally found a way to beat the New York Islanders, and they did it without Mario Lemieux. He suffered a bruised shoulder and left in the first period, but the Penguins scored 3 goals in a 51-second span in the third period to beat the Islanders for the first time in 9 meetings. Elsewhere, Toronto outscored Boston. It was New Jersey over St. Louis 5-3. Vancouver edged Philadelphia, and Edmonton and Calgary skated to a 4-all tie. And that's sports this morning, Deb.
All right, Jimmy, have a good weekend.
You too.
All right. A day ago, most of the East was enjoying Indian summer. This morning is more like winter. Joe Whitty's Outlook is next, here on NBC News at Sunrise. Thousands of acres of southern forest are still burning today, and efforts by firefighters are being hampered by high winds and no rain. Kentucky is the area that's been hardest hit. More than 2,000 people are battling the fires there, and officials have been offering rewards for information about anyone setting those fires. What they do need in that area, all over the southeast, really, is rain. What's the outlook, Joe?
There's no relief in sight, Deborah, at least for the next couple of days. No rain for the south. But the rain has really been out in the far west. Heavy thunderstorms at Las Vegas. Gully washers caused some flooding in the normally dry Death Valley area. And in the northeast, it is a blustery morning. Snow advisories are posted for western New York, and 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts make that 37 this morning in New York City feel much, much colder. Just 2 days ago, it was 40 degrees warmer than that. Now, there is snow on the western mountains, 2 to 5 inches on the high mountain passes for your travelers, and some scattered thunderstorms will pop up today over West Texas. But travelers will find it still sunny at Atlanta with a high of 67 degrees, Chicago's high 55 under partly cloudy skies, and in the west, Seattle's still dry with a high of 55 degrees, and Snohomish also at 54 degrees. There are those cold 30s moving over New England. It is going to be a cold day today, so grab the warm coat and the old windbreaker because you'll need it in New England throughout New York and Pennsylvania. The warmest spot has got to be way down in the south, Miami with 84 degrees, but still with a chance of showers there. Dallas-Fort Worth 75 degrees, and Phoenix only 70, and a pocket of cold air over the western Rockies, especially the southern Rockies, will cause snow above the 7,500-foot level. That's my national forecast. Now, here's what's happening in your neighborhood.
Clearing skies this morning with sunshine this afternoon and a high of 57. But by Saturday and Sunday, look for a chance of rain. I'm Barbara Bunnell.
Coming up next, a cold weekend forecast. Deborah?
All right, Jeff, thanks. That sound you hear is the sound of the dollar falling and falling interest rates. We'll get Alan Abelson's thoughts on both of these matters in just a moment. Here are some of our top stories this morning. Ginsburg controversy, dollar drop, and lower interest rates. Now the details. Official Washington is reacting cautiously to Supreme Court nominee Douglas Ginsburg's disclosure that he occasionally used marijuana in his younger days. Delaware Democrat Joseph Biden, the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, says the revelation does raise definite questions, but may not hurt Ginsburg's nomination.
What impact it has on his judicial capabilities. On the other hand, if he were a drug user and using drugs now or smoking marijuana now, then I think that would disqualify him. He's a mature 41-year-old man now, and so I think there's a big difference as to when this occurred and what occurred, and I don't have any more facts than apparently you all do about making a judgment about that.
Senator Biden says he plans to begin Ginsburg's confirmation hearings the week of December 7th and hopes to have them completed well before the Senate adjourns for the year. Another record low tops our business news this morning. The U.S. dollar fell to a post-war record low today in Tokyo, then edged slightly higher to close at 135.50 yen. Dollar also slipped in early European trading. And lower interest rates are brightening the outlook for many investors this morning. West Germany's decision to cut its interest rates is being hailed as a strong sign of international economic cooperation. And here at home, leading banks have also lowered their prime lending rate by 1/4 point to 8 3/4%. It's the second time in 2 weeks now that the prime rate has been lowered. News of those lower interest rates helped to boost stock prices Thursday. The Dow Jones Industrial Average jumped more than 40 points in heavy trading to close at 1,985.41. Standard & Poor's 500 stock index closed at 254.48. That was up 5.5 points. And the price of gold at 9 o'clock this morning in London, $459.50 an ounce. That's up $2 from yesterday's close in New York. Those lowered interest rates at home and abroad are being hailed as the right move at the right time, and just the evidence that at last there is some international economic cooperation, and that is encouraging. Here's our business reporter, Barron's editor, Alan Abelson. Good morning.
Good morning, Deborah.
Do you see this as a reaction to what's been going on in the stock market?
Oh, sure. You know, one philosopher once said that actions speak louder than words, and no matter what the official line has been, that the economy is sound and everything's swell, there's no question everybody's just scared stiff all over the world about what happened in the stock markets.
What if this doesn't work? Economics 101 says you pump a lot of money in, prices go up.
Well, I think ultimately that's true. I mean, this is certainly, it's a temporary cure. It isn't a permanent one. And if we don't get our act together in other respects, or if suddenly the economy doesn't grow out of this, then we're really going to be in the soup, because there's actually nothing else you can do. You can only, it seems to me, apply this kind of thing, throw money at a problem just so long. It's the right reaction at this time, but it can't go on forever, or, you know, we'll be where Germany was in the 20s with a superinflation.
How long does this continue at this current state with the lower interest rates before we know whether it's working or whether maybe we need to go to another
Well, I think
plan?
we'll have to watch the markets, Deborah. They've been really the monitors of this. They've been really running, it seems to me, monetary and fiscal policy all over the world. And when the markets decide, or when the investors, international investors decide that maybe times have cooled down, that maybe it's the time to stabilize things a little bit, then we'll know it's worked. If the markets continue to be roiled the way they have, then we'll know it isn't working, and then we'll be in trouble.
Is that necessarily the safest thing to be driving an economy or driving policy, is the way the markets react?
Well, considering what the alternatives are, you know, politicians don't do very well driving the economy either. I think I'd trust the markets first.
Lower dollar could mean that there'll be less incentive for foreigners to invest their money here in this country.
Oh, yeah. There's no question. If this dollar continues to fall at a precipitous rate, then I think you're going to have some trouble funding the budget deficit. Foreigners will not buy our securities unless they're assured at least of a reasonable, stable dollar.
But for now, you see this as a move in the right direction?
Yeah, I think it's the only thing you can do. You know, you throw water on a fire, and that's what they did.
All right, Alan. Have a good weekend.
Okay.
Talk to you next week. Graduation day for an around-the-world sailor. We'll have details on that right after this. Tanya Abbey is almost home after a 27,000-mile solo sail around the world. She arrived in Sandy Hook, New Jersey last night after 2.5 years at sea. Abby's father bought her the 26-foot boat in lieu of a college education. He once described his daughter's trip as safer than driving on the highway on a Saturday night. Abby will officially end her tour later today when she sails into New York Harbor. Brian Gumbel is next door to tell us what finishes the week on Today this morning. Brian?
And I should add, Deborah, that Miss Abby will be with us on Monday on Today. But first off, let's talk about Friday. Right off the top this morning, we'll go to the Pentagon to talk with Defense Secretary Caspar Weinberger about his resignation and his concerns about what might happen when he's gone. We'll also discuss a lawsuit brought by veterans over disabilities they say they incurred during atomic tests in the 50s. And our Mike Jensen will be here to explain what it really means when the dollar takes a nosedive. With a number of hits, Jerry Butler rode the top of the R&B charts in the 60s. Today, he still performs, but as we'll see this morning, politics has now become a bigger part of his life than his music. On some other notes this morning, we'll talk to Judd Nelson about his miniseries in the Billionaire Boys Club. John Cryer has a new movie to tell us about. He'll be here. So will former White House Press Secretary James Brady and his wife, Sarah. And Ken Bodie says he's found an answer in the stars to the chaos in presidential politics this year. We'll get his explanation of that and much more ahead this Friday morning on Today, Deborah.
That should be interesting. Okay, Brian, thanks a lot. And Joe Woody has another look at the weekend forecast. Joe?
Thanks, Deborah. I've not been looking at the stars, but at some weather charts, and this is the trend for the weekend as I see it. We'll have some rain in the plain states, a chance of some strong thunderstorms over parts of the southern plains, Texas, Oklahoma, perhaps up through Kansas. Snow in the high elevations of the Rocky Mountain states, but the far west, basically dry. California, Southern California, you're going to dry out after a rather wet week with some showers and very strong thunderstorms. Now, in the northeast, we'll have some high snows in the New England area, sunny skies along the east coast, but Florida, a chance of some onshore thunderstorms during the afternoon. For Sunday's weather, it looks like this. The rain tries to move to the mid-Atlantic area around Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Virginia, Carolinas. The south stays dry. A chance of strong thunderstorms over the mid-Mississippi Valley, and snow looking like winter over the northern Great Lakes and western Great Lakes. Meanwhile, the west strides out. A slight chance of some drizzle and showers in the far northwest. But basically cold in the New England area throughout the weekend, mild way down through Texas. That's my latest outlook. Have a great weekend. Deborah?
Thank you, Joe. And that is our news for this Friday. I'm Deborah Norville. Thanks for joining us here on NBC News at Sunrise. All of us here hope you have a good day and a great weekend, and that you'll be with us on Monday.